Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I am exploring how oil pastels behave on three different surfaces. I'm working on Canson sketch paper, which is smooth, a 160 GSM toned paper since I don't have a white paper of the same texture, and a 300 GSM watercolor paper. To compare the results, I'm using two kinds of oil pastels, Camlin student grade oil pastels and Sennelier artist grade pastels. The goal here is to understand which pastel works best on which surface. I am using this picture taken from Pinterest as my reference photo, though I am not going to exactly copy the whole picture. This is just a quick trial, and as many of you know, there are countless surfaces and many different types of oil pastels out there. So this is only a small part of a much bigger discussion, but even from this short experiment, the differences are quite noticeable. Let's begin with the Canson sketch paper. Because this paper is very smooth, the Camlin student grade pastels actually work quite well on it. Their slightly harder texture helps me maintain control, especially when I'm using techniques like stippling or sometimes pointillism to create the bush textures. The pastel does not slip too much on the surface, and the harder consistency makes detailed work much easier. But when I switch to Sennelier pastels on the same smooth paper, they become a bit inconvenient to use. Sennelier oil pastels are extremely soft and creamy, and on such a smooth surface, they tend to form clumps instead of spreading evenly. So even though they are very high quality pastels, the smooth Canson paper does not support their creamy nature very well. Now moving on to the 160 GSM toned paper. The Camlin pastels, since they are harder, don't blend as nicely on this surface. They struggle to fill the textured areas and often have a scratchy look. But the surface has more tooth compared to the smooth sketch paper. Here the Sennelier pastels started performing much better. The texture of the paper allows the creamy pastel to settle into the small grooves, making blending much easier and smoother. The colors spread more naturally, and the transitions look softer. On the 300 GSM watercolor paper, the Camlin pastels, being harder, find it a bit difficult to fill those textured gaps. They don't create the same soft blending effect, and it takes more effort to achieve even coverage. But the Sennelier oil pastels work beautifully here, giving rich coverage and smooth blending. The rough surface with small holes actually helps the creamy Sennelier pastels adhere better and blend more naturally. So the differences become even clearer on 300 GSM watercolor paper. On these rougher surfaces, I have used a color shaper to help push the pastel into the tiny holes and spread it more evenly. If you don't have a color shaper, you can use a paper stump or earbuds. Paper stumps can be prepared at home using old newspapers. On the smooth Canson paper, though this step isn't necessary because the surface doesn't have holes to fill. Overall, this comparison shows how both paper selection and pastel type influence the results. Each combination behaves differently and neither pastel is universally better. Everything depends on the effect you want and the surface you choose. And of course, this topic is huge with many more variables to explore.